Happy Friday, Math 8 kiddos. Alright, so we're going to do one extra step with evaluating expressions. So it's kind of like the expression's already there, but we're going to have to pull it out of a real world problem, okay? So have your digital notebook up. If you don't have that open, please pause this video, get that pulled up. It's posted right above this assignment with this video. And you want to go to that, not actually the last slide. The last slide you can delete if you want. It was just for me to be able to make the digital notebook for you. So that second to last slide that has the 3 problems on it. We're going to start with this first one. And so these are just real world problems where we're going to have to pull the expression out and use that to substitute and solve, okay? So we've got the expression that can be used to find the perimeter of a rectangle is 2L, or 2 times L, plus 2W, or 2 times W, where L is the length and W is the width. So you don't need to actually know that, like off the top of your head. They're giving it to you, okay? They just want to make sure you know what the variables are representing, because that's important to know. So now find the perimeter of a rectangle with a length of 8.5 inches and a width of 12.4 inches. So first off, now I know these aren't on your digital notes, but these are questions you should be asking yourself. So first off, make sure you understand what the variable means, meaning what does it represent. So we actually have 2 variables in this case, and they represent L is the length, W is the width. The reason that's important to know is because since there are variables, that's what we're going to have to look for as far as numbers to substitute. So they do give us the length. They say the length is 8.5 inches, and then they also give us the width of 12.4. So we're going to use those numbers to substitute into our variables. But the other really important thing to know too, so we figured out our variable meaning, but we also need to pay attention to what our unit or label would be for this problem. So what are we trying to find? Well, we're trying to find the perimeter of a rectangle. So that's going to be a measurement. And since it's just perimeter, we're just essentially adding up all the sides. That's basically what the expression is saying, which this is the expression we're going to need. So anyways, we only need to put inches as our unit. So you can put IN, or you can write out the word inches, your choice, but that's what we're going to need when we get our answer. Okay, so really important to take the time to make sense of the problem, because that's where all of our information is. And if you miss a step, it can trip you up later when you go to get your final answer. So once you've kind of taken a look at the problem, here are your 3 steps. This is really the only new step, is to rewrite the expression from the problem. So make sure you're identifying that. So we want 2L plus 2W. So that is what you need to type in your digital notebook. The other 2 steps, you're going to need either a whiteboard or a scratch paper or your notebook, whatever, to write out with. So if you need to pause the video to get yourself situated, please do so. But you need to type this into your digital notebook where it says like type formula here, or whatever. Then we'll solve it together, okay? So we need to substitute. So we need to know what L and W are, which is length and width. So we got 8.5 for L, 12.4 for W. So I'm going to substitute those in. Remember, this just means 2 times for both of these. So I'm going to do 2 times 8.5 plus 2 times 12.4. Okay, and now you just solve following order of operations. So we've got multiplication, addition, multiplication. So we're going to do that multiplication from left to right. Now you can kind of do them at the same time because they're not going to impact each other until you add them. So if you want to do them at the same time, that's fine. If you need to do work off to the side, please feel free to do that if you want to show it like this. So I'm just going to do that real quick. If you want to do yours too, that's fine. But make sure you can do that. And even though we get 17.0, I can just write that as 17. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing. I know some of you might know this off the top of your head. That's okay. I'm still saying that if you need to do work off to the side, feel free to do it. Oops. There we go. Sorry, I always get too close to the edge of my screen. Sorry about that. There we go. Try better to not do that. Okay, so we end up with 24.8 So the last step is to add those up again. If you need to line those up off to the side, I'm going to do that like right here. Okay. Make sure you're lining up your decimals like we talked about before. So you add a 0 there. Okay, and I end up with 8, 1. So we end up with 41.8. Really important to include labels. Remember we talked about the units were inches, so we're going to put IN, or you can write out inches. So that would be your answer. So make sure that work is somewhere that you can look back to it if you need to. Let's try another problem. I'll go a little faster this time now that we're getting the hang of it. So this one we've got the expression 3.3 m gives the number of feet in m meters. How many feet are equivalent to 400 meters? Okay, so first things first is what does our variable mean? So our variable is this m right here. And they tell us that m is for meters. Okay, so that means for our variable, we're going to need to substitute in some kind of meters for that. And since they tell us 400 meters, we know we're going to use that. Other really important thing, especially for this kind of problem, is to pay attention to your units. So a good place to find that, because when we're saying units, that would be for your answer. And so a good place to look for that is in your question. So see how it says how many feet? Well, that's what our unit is going to be for our answer. So we're going to end up labeling it feet. We're starting with meters and going to feet. Okay, so then once you have that figured out, we're going to rewrite the expression, substitute, and evaluate. So rewriting the expression is just 3.3 m, which means 3.3 times m. So make sure you type that in your digital notebook, pause if needed. But then we're going to substitute, so I've got 3.3 times 400, because that's what they told us how many meters were, and we know m is meters in this case. So I'm going to do this off to the side, although you could do the trick of 3.3 times 4, and then you'll just add in those zeros later. Okay, just be mindful of your decimal point. So I've got my 2, carry the 1, 13, add my 2 zeros. So then I should have 1 decimal point. And if you're not sure, you can always do the actual math out, or you can double check with a calculator. I mean, I want you to be able to do the work. I'm just saying you can always do a quick double check. But your answer should be 1,320. Now think about what? Think about what we were trying to get to. It was feet. So we're going to put feet, like FT if you want to do that for feet, as our label. Okay. Last one. 1 second. There we go. Last one. So we've got the expression 6s squared gives the surface area of a cube, where s is the length of one side of the cube. Find the surface area of a cube with a side length of 5.2 m. Now this case, m is just saying meters. It's just the abbreviation, which is what we had on the last one. So m is not a variable in this case. It's a label. Okay. So first off, our variable, what does it mean? Well, we have s, and they tell us that s is the length of one side of the cube. That is a little bit longer name for that variable than some of the other ones, okay? The unit we're going to have is meters. However, we're finding surface area, and with area, we always have squared meters, so you can write it like this if you're typing, or you can do m with the little 2 if you're writing, but for typing, you're going to put SQ. So when we go to rewrite this expression, it's going to be hard for you to type it, so here's how you can do that, okay? You can write it, I'm going to write it up here and then I'll move down. So for typing it, I would just do 6s, and then you should have this little like caret looking thing, this little arrow thing, and then you can put 2. And that shows that you're meaning that that 2 should be up. Now, if you know how to put superscripts in, go ahead and do it, but if you don't, this is how you can show that it's a power rather than just a 2 after it. So when you're typing, you can do it that way if you want. Just make sure you know it's to the power of 2 because that's going to come in handy here in a second. So I'm going to rewrite it the way I would actually write it if I was not having to type down here. So that's rewriting the expression. Make sure that's in your digital notebook. Sorry, my 2 got a little weird. So then we got to substitute in the side length right here of 5.2. So I'm going to do 6 times 5.2 squared. And you know what, this one's a little trickier, so I'm actually going to be nice and let you use a calculator. If you want to do it off to the side, it's just 5.2 times 5.2. But I'll let you use a calculator for this one. In general, we're not going to do that, but in this particular case, it's okay. It's a little harder than I was anticipating. So this one is 27.04 is what we get. So you get 6 down here and 27.04 because we want to rewrite the parts of the problem. Now this you should be able to do. I'm going to just make some room here. We want 27.04 times 6. So I get 4, carry the 2. You can feel free to pause and try it on your own first if you want. Okay, and then I end up with 42. And then we end up with 16 because I had to add in those 4. And I've got 2 numbers behind the decimal. So I end up with 162.24. And I need to put surface area. We said it was meters and it's squared meters. So I'm going to put my M2, but you can always write the SQ for squared if you want. And that's our answer. Okay, so really the only new step is making sense of your real world problem as far as what does your variable mean, what are your units, sometimes those are the same, sometimes it's different, so pay attention to that, and rewriting the expression from the problem. Then you just substitute and solve like we've been doing. So now you have some practice to do. So there's an expression with formulas practice along with this. There are 4 problems, you need to solve each one. And then on the first slide, you're just typing in your answer with a label into the table. But then on the next slide, I need some kind of picture of your work. Now, if you want to do one picture of all 4 problems, that's fine. If you want to do 2 pictures where you have 2 problems on one, 2 problems on the other, if you want to do 4 individual pictures, I don't care. I just need to see all the problems somehow on that slide, please. And then extra math, this was just if you want some extra practice. These are some IXLs you can do. That's totally optional. But otherwise, this is the practice you need to get done. All right, good luck. As always, ask questions if needed.